Namaste, viewers. I'm Vibhuti Jha. This is Jaipur Dialogue USA. Welcome to the show. As always, I request you please like, subscribe, support our channel, press the bell icon, and give your feedback. We value your feedback. Thank you very much. Today, I'm going to talk about global Hindu Renaissance, and who else other than Mr. Rajiv Malhotra ji to talk about this. And it's a great pleasure to welcome him on our show today in this conversation. Rajiv Malhotra ji set up Infinity Foundation 30 years ago. And he's going to host very soon, April 19th, in a few weeks' time, a 30-year celebration of Infinity Foundation in New Jersey at Royal Albert Palace. So Rajiv ji will talk about everything going forward, but one of the key things is global Hindu Renaissance. So I would like Rajiv ji to tell us about the 30 years of his journey, which has been a rather incredible journey because that's the time when I have been in this country since then. This is not about me, but important part is that in a contemporary way, the battle has been fought for a very long time. And Rajiv ji, congratulations for completing 30 years of Infinity Foundation, giving so much to the country and the people. I have read your book, Breaking India, Being Different. And I personally want to thank you that last time when we hosted a few of us at your house, you gave a bag full of goodies, which were so many books in it. So it is a prize moment for me to have those books in my library. So from being different to AI to Jati and Varna and everything else, it's a learning. And you have done an outstanding job. So my heartfelt personal congratulations. And on behalf of Jaipur Dialogue, to have so successfully demonstrated your commitment to the Hindu cause. Rajiv ji, please tell us more about Infinity Foundation, the inspiration, and the 30-year journey for you.
Well, thank you very much for having me. Namaste to everybody. The event on April 19 is already oversubscribed, and now we're looking for an extension in another hall next door. We have about 1,300 people registered, 1,300. And lots of organizations. This is the interesting part. Often the Hindu organizations don't come to each other's events, but they're all coming to my event. We have 30 events. It's 30th anniversary. 30 members of this what we are calling the Banyan Tree Initiative, and the Banyan Tree is a metaphor for unity in diversity because each trunk has its own roots, and like each organization in the Hindu system has its own parampara, its own sampradaya, its own history, gurus, rituals, texts. They have all kinds of different ideas and different ways of celebrating their tradition, but they flow into each other. Like the roots of the different trunks of a banyan tree are interconnected. So are the different parts of the dharma traditions. And just like the diverse tree has a common DNA, our banyan tree that we are starting has a common DNA, which is Sanatana Dharma. So this is the metaphor, and we are starting this on April 19. We're going to launch this as organizations, bringing more organizations together in New Jersey in a very serious way, not just one or two people each, but some of them have reserved a table, 5 tables. One of them has reserved 10 tables. So it's a large gathering because of organization. I think majority of the people attending are part of some organization, some delegation from a major Hindu group, Buddhist group, Jain group, etc. So that's as far as the 30th anniversary is concerned. But going back in time, I've lived in this country. You said you lived 30 years. I lived about 55 years, and I worked in the IT career. I had a whole lot of companies. And then when I was in my early 40s, I had a transformation, a spiritual awakening, a whole new outlook, a whole cognitive shift, I call it. And this led me to aspire for a different quest rather than making money and the material quest. I figured I had made enough, and I did not want to make more than enough. It's important to make enough, but I don't think you need to make more than enough. So I decided to quit everything, literally, just gave up for profit. I took sannyas from money. I took sannyas from making any revenues, any income. And to support myself, I set up some trust from the money I had made and devoted myself from that moment onwards towards the cause that I now spend all my time doing. And that is through my foundation, which is 30 years old. So that's kind of the background story. Now, the foundation started at a time when there was no such think tank. There was no Hindu think tank in the United States for sure that was, focused on this. And people thought it's very strange that I'm starting this, because they figured, why do you need to start it? The academics are doing the job. And I started by funding the academics because they're doing the job. And then I started realizing that the academics are the problem and they are not the solution. And you can give them any amount of money. And I gave a few $1 million of my money. They are not the solution. They are the problem. So I found myself arguing with the very same people I was funding. I would fund them on the one hand. I would go to all their events and their dissertation defenses and academic panel discussions, and I would be sitting there arguing with them because I felt that their understanding about my tradition was wrong. And this led me to becoming an opponent of the academy. I started doing what I call the Purva Paksha, or reversing the gaze on them, and started writing blogs and giving talks. And then it led to conferences that we started funding with our own scholars. And finally, I started writing books, my own books. So that's been my journey from being a philanthropist of the academy to being a critic of the academy to being a scholar writing against them and creating my own following, my own school of thought. So this I've seen many waves of this evolution over the past 30 years. First, the fight was with Western scholars. And we defeated quite a lot of them. The names that I took on in the old days, very famous, big, mighty names that are mentioned in my books, I was naming them, shaming them, not afraid. Those are no more on the scene. Some of their students have taken over, but the old timers are no longer on the scene. They kind of withdrew because they were hit so hard. But then they came up with a trick. They started bringing in Indian leftists to help them. And these Indian leftists had, Hindu names. So now I was facing a different front. I couldn't say that this is Western versus Indian, because it is Indian versus Indian. And they are Hindu names, most of them, but they are bitterly against our tradition. And so they went to all these leftist universities in India, brought these people, got them PhDs in Sanskrit and Hinduism and all that, and turned them loose. So that was the next wave, if you will. Okay. And then this wave has continued, and it culminated in the woke, which is a kind of a morphed version, a kind of a latest evolutionary version of the leftist movement, the Marxist movement. And I've written about it. And then lo and behold, along the way, they found that Rajiv stopped funding the Harvard and the Columbia and all these places I used to fund. And they found Indian billionaires willing to fund. And Indian billionaires, the Mahindra and all these Lakshmi Mittal and Tatas and Reliance, started funding because they would get a seat at the table, they would be on the board, it was very prestigious, maybe it was good for business, it certainly made them famous, and they became kind of honorary white people. And these funding agencies, these funding billionaires, did not seem to understand the issues. They were not willing to roll up their sleeves and do the digging up like I had done, because on the one hand, they're proud Hindus, like the Ambanis are, Mahindra is, all these guys, Lakshmi Mittal, they're all very proud Hindus in their personal lives, and they do good work. They do a lot of good work, but they have continued funding the very same people that I was opposing, and that you would be opposing, the people I called Hinduphobic, which was a whole movement I started called Hinduphobia, to critique Hinduphobia. So the journey has consisted of different targets. The Kurukshetra keeps shifting. The opposing side is not the same. And so we have to recalibrate who's our home team, who are the intellectual Kshatriyas that we have to bring, and how do we train them? It's no longer training them against one kind of opponent. Now it's a different opponent, and then a third kind of opponent, and a fourth kind of opponent. So this is a shifting battlefield. The Hindu Renaissance is is therefore a complex renaissance of many moving targets. A lot of people think that it's about correcting our history. Well, that's just one part of it. It's also about correcting the philosophy, the way West. It's also about getting into Western philosophy and looking for Indian sources, because a lot of Western philosophy, German philosophy, French philosophy, postmodernism has been based on distorted versions of Indian philosophy. So it's also a battlefield about that, what I call digestion. A lot of our knowledge has become digested. A lot of psychology, cognitive science, neuroscience has come out of Indian mind sciences, Indian Adhyatma Vidya. So I've written about that. That's also part of the Hindu Renaissance, to reclaim our heritage, which has become digested and camouflaged as Western, but it's actually ours. So another part of the Renaissance, the Hindu Renaissance, is to look at social sciences, the social sciences which are explaining society and aging population and human rights and the meaning of diversity. All of these are popular concepts, but our tradition has a lot to offer in these spaces. In health, our tradition has a lot to offer. So I have my idea of Hindu Renaissance is very broad. It's not just rewriting history, and it's
Right.
just fighting the Aryan divide, which I initiated that a lot. And it's not just fighting Christian missionaries, which I also fought. I initiated those fights. And I must say that one thing that's common, the process that is common in all these different eras and epochs and fights, is that you start by first identifying a problem, discovering a problem which people don't know. It's like a doctor finding that you got some symptoms and you better get checked up, and the patient doesn't even know and doesn't want to know. And when you diagnose that, hey, we got this issue, in every single case, our own leaders, our own Hindu leaders, whether they're temple people or gurus or government people or civic leaders, actually didn't like me saying all that, because they thought I was just creating controversy for no reason. And then the same people 5 years or 10 years later would start adopting my vocabulary and start adopting the kind of framework I had developed, in fact claiming it to be their own in many cases. So the shift has been from sticking my neck out to talk about an issue that people don't want to hear. I guess it disrupts their comfort zone, and they don't want to talk about it all the time, and going on and on doing it until it becomes established, and until there are enough people who follow me on that, and then people join the bandwagon, and there are many more leaders who take over. So today you will find large numbers of YouTube influencers who actually started out working with me. Some of them were formally involved with me as interns or advisors, or people just involved in helping me out in some way at my foundation. And then they sort of branched out and created their own YouTube channels, quite a large number of them. And many of them will be coming for this event. So the Hindu Renaissance has come of age, uh, in the sense that I'm no longer alone. When I used to take up these issues, I would find myself alone. In fact, sometimes the Hindu temples wouldn't want to invite me, because they said this guy will say uncomfortable truths, or he will talk about things that are too controversial. We don't want to get involved in it. And now the number of invites I get, I just can't keep up with it. I mean, I could go every day of the week to a different place and give a talk. There's enough demand. So things have shifted from being not welcome, too controversial, all the way to the other way around. People are saying this is very serious stuff that has been exposed, and we better do something about it. So that's the success of the Hindu Renaissance. There is an awakening among our own people, and we cannot change the other people's thinking, but we first have to change our thinking. So the Hindu Renaissance is really mostly an internal renaissance of our own people appreciating our heritage and our background. So that's my kind of a quick rewinding of 30 years. But let's talk more, and I'll answer more of your questions.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. No, no, it's a brilliant opening because you have a lot to tell. And as you say that you have done so much of research and so much of work, I think no amount of hours are sufficient to grasp all of them. But I will begin with a statement. You use the word reclaim. We have to reclaim a lot of our own. And you will be glad to know that the last Jaipur Dialogue Annual Summit that we had, it was titled Reclaiming Bharat. So that was something we will be glad to know that we are all aligned in terms of renaissance and thinking, which is very positive, which is what I'm very happy about. But one thing which comes to my mind as a student of economics, I always talk about the opportunity cost of something. Have we achieved this in good speed, or are we happy that what we have achieved? That's something which I want to know because you are in the thick of things. See, for example, I'll just qualify it by saying India could have been a 10 trillion economy if only we had processed things in a different way. We are struggling to be five, and we are aspiring to be 10 or 20 or 30 in certain number of years. So there has been a significant opportunity loss. Do you see that we could have done much more, or a lot more could have happened, in addition to the fact that we are fighting our own selves, no longer the white guy, but
So
our own?
the my I'm a tech person, and
Yes.
my uh, graduate studies in the early 70s was on artificial intelligence at a time when the term was very futuristic. It didn't exist because we didn't have the hardware, we didn't have the data sets, we didn't have all that, and we didn't have neural networks. But the aspiration was there. It was more of a theory, and people were projecting futurist ideas. So I've been a technocrat and gone through many waves of disruptions and so on. I'm extremely disappointed, and I have written about this a lot. Uh, India, with so much brain power, has rented the brains rather than using them to make our own technology. Uh, we say we have so many lakhs of people doing this and that, and now we have one of the largest AI trained forces in the world, but they are not making technology for India. They're making Microsoft technology. They're working for Google. They're working for Facebook, and they're working for all those companies, and they're not working for India. Indian engineers dominate in many of these companies. So what has happened is our billionaires, or people who end up becoming billionaires, renting the brains of Indians, basically would hire somebody, let's say for $10,000 a year, in those, at a certain point in time, and they would hire somebody at that and rent him out to the Americans for 30,000, make some money. And the American hiring this guy for 30,000 would replace somebody who would have made 60, 70,000 and as smart, maybe smarter. So everybody was winning. The individual is making money and creating a middle class back home. The billionaire as a middleman doing what I would call wage arbitrage. So you as an economist, I'll tell you this is wage arbitrage. And this is making cyber coolies. It's no different than some construction company hiring lakhs of people from a poor village in Bihar or some districts in Bihar, hiring a large number of people and putting them on construction sites. Now these people look like they are very rich compared to their fellow Biharis, and they're sending money back, but this is just labor. They're not building any equity. They have no equity. When they're finished one job, they look for another job, another construction site. So these H-1B visas, the fact that India is begging for them is a disgrace. Look at China. They're not begging for H-1B visas because they are taking all these technocrats and building Chinese technology. So China has built its own equivalent of Amazon, better than that, its own equivalent of Facebook, better than that, its own equivalent of Google, better than that, and on and on and on. So 10, 15 years ago, they decided that they will use cheap manufacturing, cheap labor manufacturing to make money, and then most of that money they'll reinvest in R&D for the future. Whereas Indians took cheap labor in technology, rented that out, made money, bought yachts and private jets and big high-rise buildings named after them, etc., etc., but they did not create made in India technology. It's a shame on the Tatas and the Reliance people and the all these TCS and all these guys. And I have been out there saying this. I've become unpopular. I say controversial things, but I'm not afraid to say that the single biggest opportunity lost that you're talking about has been the opportunity to have created equivalent technologies that USA and China are the only countries that have. They are the only countries that own their own platforms, and India doesn't. India is a user of American technology. So when we say that we have so many millions of WhatsApp users, and we're very proud of it, the point is that in China, they are saying that it's not that we have so many millions of users, but we are exporting the platform, and the world is using our platform, so many millions of people. India does not have any platforms in technology. No search engine, no WhatsApp type engine, no social media engine, no AI, large language model. You take any major IT technology, India has not produced a large platform of its own. Maybe one or two here and there. Okay, so this is the cause of failure. Now let me give you some numbers because you're an economist. What percent of the global tech industry market value do you think belongs to the Indian tech industry? Just guess.
What percentage of the global tech industry belongs to the Indian part
Tech
of it?
What Indian tech industry as market value? The market value of Indian tech industry is what percent of the global tech industry?
I think it is less than 10%.
It's 1%.
There you go.
Okay. Now let me just tell you, the total market value of TCS and all these companies, the big companies, is like 400 billion. That's a lot. We are very happy. But the total technology, the three, four companies are worth 10 trillion. If you look at Nvidia, you look at Microsoft, you look at these three, four companies, the top three, four companies are 10 trillion, American companies, 10 trillion. Then you look at the rest of the American tech, it's another 10 trillion. So that's 20 trillion right there, American. When you add in the Chinese, that's another 10 trillion, and so on. So the global tech industry is around 35 to 40 trillion, and 400 billion is 1% of that. Now, in terms of population of people, the technocrats, India is a very high percentage. I would say India has got like 20-25% of the software people, tech people, engineering people. Why is it that 20% of the people working in this area, and yet our country owns 1% of the value, economic value, in terms of market value of these companies? That means that we have not deployed these people wisely. I have argued this with the ministries. They don't want to hear this because they want to celebrate that we are exporting these people. We are getting these H-1B visas. And I'm saying that you are renting your brains. The brainiest people, you rented them out to Microsoft and others, rather than using them in India to make Indian products. And so this is an addiction to a short-term mentality that I will rent out and make immediate money. Whereas building a product takes 5 years and takes risk, and I have to invest, and then long-term I'll get value. So a large part of if you look at Indian startups today, Indian startups are more like about culture, about food delivery, about fashion delivery, about, shopping, and it's about popular lifestyle. It's about lifestyle, a lot of startups. Whereas Chinese are fundamental EV technology, fundamental robotics technology, quantum computing technology, nanotechnology. So they are building the technology of the future, and we will be renting it from either Americans or Chinese for the foreseeable future. We do not have a chance to catch up. I'm sorry to tell you that we've missed that boat.
We missed that boat.
We missed that boat.
No, that's a very important point for all to know, because currently you refer to H-1B and the tech coolies you refer to. And I remember I've met many of them here in New York and other places, and privately they are unhappy. I'll tell you the reason why. What they said to me, a few of them told me that. And if I'm able to summarize my finding on that, they are tech coolies. They say we are the clerks of the modern era. We are here, we are making good money. Beyond that, we have no career path. We have no growth path. We remain a contracted labor. As you rightly said, aaj yahan, kal wahan. That's the kind of a thing scenario.
Vibhuti, if I may be very blunt,
yes.
They are digital Shudras.
Digital Shudras. I mean, you
I have used this term in my books. They are tech Shudras. I mean, this is what this is the new Shudra. He's doing dirty work. He's doing some labor-intensive work, basically, and he's going to be obsolete because the robots are going to take over. The AI is going to take over that whole class of people. The AI is going to take over this call center business, and you don't need human beings for that. So India has not built its own platforms, its own technology, and it's not positioned well for the future. And in order to make money, it's kind of an addictive thing that I can make 3 times the money. I hire somebody and rent him out at 3 times the price, make a quick buck, and become a billionaire. And India is saluting and awarding and rewarding these kind of billionaires but they have actually sold out the country.
You said it, you talked about digital Shudra, and I had actually talking to about an American group of people who asked me about caste. And I said, it is actually, we had the Varna system, which we were not able to advance or talk about. And I said, in the modern definition of Shudras, which are what you call looked down upon, the entire service industry belongs to the Shudra category.
So
The
I hope you will now start.
banker, travel agent,
Yeah.
accountant, everybody is a Shudra today
So
because
I
we
hope
are
you'll
service
start
providers.
popularizing. I would like you to start popularizing the term I've coined, digital Shudras,
Yeah.
because I'm giving it currency. I think one of the things I do is I come up with a framework, which is original, and then I come up with some tough vocabulary. And then I turn loose that vocabulary. It becomes catchy, and like I called a lot of people sepoys who are, and became very popular. And a lot of people got very angry at me saying, oh, if you're implying I'm a sepoy. And I'd say, yeah. So once these terms become popular, a whole lot of people can use them and put pressure for change. So I would like your help to popularize digital Shudras, and so that we keep telling our decision makers, policy makers, government people, business tycoons that, we got to stop this. You're fighting the caste system, but you're creating a digital caste system.
You are absolutely right. You forget about the digital caste, which is a great word. I agree with you, but I defined it in a even bigger encompassing, in which I said every single service provider in the modern era belongs to the Shudra category because we are all service providers. Shudra is nothing else but service providers. So whether it's bankers, accountant, IT services, travel agents, everybody is the modern Shudra, and that's where we have to address. So of course the digital Shudra is there, and people will agree with that, and I think all the viewers must consider this element. I'm a born Brahmin, but my vyavasai is a banking. So I'm a modern Shudra from that point of view because I'm providing banking services to people who come to us for a few dollars that I gain from there. That's what is one thing to understand. This is how we will, like Rajiv ji said, popularize a concept is for us to take our cause
So
forward.
just to clarify,
Yes,
if you were the banker with the principal party with your own money, you
yes,
had the money and you're lending your money, then you would be a Vashya.
that's
Okay.
right. That's
Okay.
right.
But if
Yes,
you're not lending your money, you're working for Bank of America, it is their money, they are the Vashya, and you are just an employee there, then you're a
yes,
Shudra.
that's right. I'm talking about the Shudra category in terms
Yes.
of just service
Yes.
providers. Like
Yes.
I say, insurance is a great business to own, lousy industry to work for.
Right.
So
I mean,
that's
it's
what
a
I'm
it's
thinking.
a the guy who's driving the taxi, but he doesn't own it. He's a Shudra. The
Right.
company that owns 100 taxis, they are Vaishyas.
They are
So,
Vaishyas.
so, so you see, we have become Shudras in the sense that we don't own a single line of code that we are writing for Microsoft. The average guy is writing thousands of lines of code during his life for Microsoft, and he just writes, gets his paycheck, and that's it. He's providing a service to them. He's just an employee. Maybe he's making a lot of money. He's a rich Sudra. Some people are rich Sudras also, but the country's economy is not moving up to another notch through technology. India has lost the boat because 15-20 years ago, I've been monitoring this for a long time, and I've been writing for a long time, and it just pisses off a lot of people, but I don't care. 15-20 years ago, the Chinese very publicly declared, there was no secret. They said these are the dozen industries and technologies where we will become either number one or two. And they had all these all kind of technologies that they are now top. All these, they had AI, they had nanotechnology, robotics, they had solar, and they are the ones who are at the top in these areas. And they identified materials, rare materials that are going to be important in the future. They identified it 10 years ahead of anybody, and they went to Africa and various places and got all the mines. They bought off all the mines. So look at the far-sightedness, and the Indian businessmen reacting to, how I can make a quick buck. So the Indian industrialists, no matter how rich they are, no matter how much their growth is from quarter to quarter and the share price is going up, basically is trading on the fact that we have a very large population of consumers, and you can supply to them whatever you can and they will buy it. And so in order to make money as a middleman, Indians have done well, most of the manufactured things are coming from China, and the middleman is adding value and localizing it and providing some local service and marking it up and selling it. And China is very happy because India has become a dependent economy.
And China, this is something very concerning. Actually, those people who know the stuff they know and they say it, China is virtually controlling Indian economy. Would that be a far-fetched statement to
No,
make?
it is very true. And in fact, I will also tell you a geopolitical reality. The Northeast is in danger. The Northeast, the 7 states in the Northeast surrounding Assam and all that, because the Bangladesh has fallen. And that's a real tragedy that the most friendly country we had, we allowed this to happen. The Indian intelligence agencies were sleeping. They did not even anticipate it. How could it be that this sort of a coup happens and you didn't even know about it? And India should have not only known about it, but been able to take some proactive action. So if you've had a friendly country for more than a decade and you never put out I mean, India should have done a 99-year lease of easement of, certain, like China has this one belt, one road. They have a 99-year lease and they have a right to passage and they build some stuff there. India should have built a port so that from the seaport to the northeast could be a channel, and it could have had a 99-year lease. And in the chicken's neck, they could have leased some of the land to have access. India never did any of that. India should have been training their military. The way US starts training the military of another country to kind of make them dependent and also to keep an eye on them. India should have been training the military officers of Bangladesh so that we would know about it. Indian intelligence agencies should have been there all over the place. And Indian think tanks like Ford Foundation came to India, and all these foundations are in India. And this Soros is operating these NGOs in India. India should have learned that and done that to Bangladesh. We should have kind of let them be a free country, but keep an eye on them and keep control over them so something like this could never have happened. So what has happened is a real disgrace and a failure. I wouldn't be surprised if same thing happens in Nepal and the same thing happens in Bhutan, because we just had to kind of not able to focus on the hard power and the strategic direction we need to take. Too much scattered here and there, too much given to emotions, making people feel good. But we are facing a really tough situation in the Northeast right now, because Bangladesh and China can finish off the Indian Northeast states, and we don't have an answer.
We don't have an answer. That's a tough thing to take. To speaking frankly speaking on that account, but I'm sure that India will not allow that to happen. I would hope so, and I think India has salvaged itself. But there brings a second question in this process. You talked about the Chinese system versus the Indian system. There is no shortage of intellect, wisdom, knowledge in India. There is no shortage of that. However, we have missed out on Bhagavad Gita's essential training called action. What is it? Is the chaos of democracy? Did we get freedoms too early? And the Chinese have stolen a march over us because they are not as chaotic as we are. How does one reconcile that? Because people often ask me, China can do that, why can't you do that? I said, well, in that case, Prime Minister Modi will have to declare himself dictator for life. But if that happens, the whole world will jump on India, but they will say nothing about Z. So the point of the matter here is what I'm asking you, Rajiv ji, is that how is it that we are nobody in the international arena until the last 10 years of Prime Minister Modi's rule, which I will give him a compliment for that he has definitely brought India's stature remarkably high than what it used to be. Where we can be is a different matter, which is what we have to be. So your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm very happy about the stature. I'm very happy that Modi has done many, many good things. But you see, if you're 1/4 or 1/5 the economy of China, a similar population level, and you're 1/4, that means that India is to China what Pakistan is to India. I mean, if you really think about it. I mean, in terms of comparison of economy, military, all of that. So we could have stature of a certain kind, but if China were to want to take on India militarily or really squeeze India, I mean, there are very few options. India would have to depend on the US, but that's not what a sovereign country should be doing. I mean, if you really think about the definition of a superpower, we like to think we are a superpower, but I would say that a superpower must satisfy the requirement that it can defend its sovereignty without anybody else's help. And only United States, China, and Russia can defend themselves without any foreign help today. Even European, France, England cannot, Middle East people cannot, Japan cannot, Korea cannot, and India cannot. So there's no way we could call ourselves a superpower. So it's a bit of arrogance also to say that we become superpower and stuff like that. We depend on military, and the military dependency, each time we say, okay, we're going to indigenize this jet and indigenize this ship and this navy, submarine, the point is the speed at which we catch up with the technology is slower than the leapfrogging the other guys do getting ahead. So now the Chinese are making ships and submarines and jets that are so far ahead of anything we've developed. So I can't understand why the tech. It's, to me, as a technocrat, this is the age of technology, and the haves and have-nots are being made based on technology. Technology haves and technology have-nots. That's about it. So the failures we have and the successes we have correspond to our technology failures, technology successes. So it's entirely a technology game. That's how I look at it. And I feel that the planning of technology, where to invest the money, has not been that good. We just invested in short-term things here and there. And even these very large number of unicorns, when you look at how fundamental is their technology, how original is their technology, and is it something that it's more of an application they're on somebody else's platform and not our own platform. That's what it is.
That's very important. In the remaining time that we have, I wanted to touch upon two aspects. One is your latest, book that you have talked about with Vijayaji. I watched the show on who is raising your children.
Right.
And it was very interesting because about the same time, I had done a show with Professor Kundan Singh and Krishna Maheshwari on saving Hindu children to save your future. And their book, Colonial Discourse and the Suffering of Indian American Children, is very important, just as your book is and your talk is. And that's where I realized that the words like Indian kids or Hindu kids mostly were called America-born confused Desis and Hino. You realize why it was happening. Do we have hope to recover that? Because the academics infiltrated by the communists from India, and those enemies that we are fighting within, people like Hindus for Human Rights, they don't provide human rights to Hindus. They are against human rights for Hindus. How does the Indian diaspora, we are all living in America, take that battle on?
So, since it's our 30th anniversary, we did a rewind to see what are the projects we've done. We've done 400 projects, and we picked about 100 of them to showcase. And we have summarized these 100 projects in 5 volumes that will be launched on the 19th when you're there. One of those is our impact on the American education system as it pertains to Indians. We were the first who took on the biases in the school textbooks, because I faced this with my kids were going to school here in Princeton.
Yes.
We started several projects. Then we were the first to fund an organization in California that took on the California school project, the school system bias, way back in the 90s before a bunch of other people joined it. We funded them. We funded somebody called CAPEEM, CAPEEM. They are the ones who started this, and we funded them. And Kundan knows about it. He was involved in some way. So we provide the initial funding to make that happen. Then there was something in West Virginia. There was fights in other places. Then because of the notoriety I got that I'm against all these school biases, the New Jersey governor, Jim McGreevey, he was actually a very pro-India guy way back, 20 years or something. He created the Asian Studies Commission and appointed me the chairman. So I became the chairman of the Asian Studies for New Jersey. And the idea was that we will revolutionize the school curriculum for Asian Studies. And we did a lot of work. We produced a whole new program. and he was ready to sign it and make it law. And then he said, I can sign it right now, but if you want a very fanfare, fancy, ceremonial signing in the governor's mansion, we'll have to schedule a date and get the press and the media. So we should have had him just sign it, but we waited for that. We said, let's do it in a big way in the governor's mansion. And in those few weeks, he resigned because there was some scandal. So he resigned, and our project was put on the shelf. The new governor came, didn't want anything to do with it, and it's never happened. But the result was that I learned a lot on what the issues are and how to solve them. So this movement of education, that everybody's in this bandwagon in this country on education, uh, I understand it very well. And now the problem is that when there is bias in Islam, all the people will show up, all the Muslims will show up, the mosques will be involved. Our our fight is done by individuals. It's individuals like you, me, Kundan, few people here and there. We get it organized. We don't have the big temples. We don't have BAPS going after it. We don't have Ramakrishna Mission, Chinmay Mission. We don't have the Indian, we just don't have. We don't have the Indian billionaires wanting to get involved because it's too controversial for them. Now, why wouldn't Indian billionaires who are big Hindus at home, why wouldn't they fund this kind of a fight and create conferences and seminars and get PR agencies, get media companies to cover this? We just go knocking at their door and they just don't help us because it's too controversial. They want to keep their reputation clean. They want to be in the good books. Maybe it's good for contracts they'll get internationally. Maybe they'll get some prize. Or see, one of the things that is happened is the Modi government has become risk averse in terms of controversy. Modi himself is a very controversial figure. And you know that when he was CM, he took some very controversial stand, and he was known for that. But as he got into power, he became very sort of controversy averse, risk averse. So he doesn't want to be associated with things of this sort, except in a very carefully calculated way. So if you and I were to go in private, we will get a huge good reception. But if you were to say that let's stop all the Indian billionaires from funding Harvard, where they're funding anti India things, and let's stop these woke people from miseducating the Indians, what you will be told is, look, I believe in you, I agree with you, but I'm not going to go public and say any of this. That's the problem. The Indian establishment, be it corporate, be it political, are not willing to stick their neck out and fight for our interests in this country. So we are left to ourselves.
You refer to politicians and in business. What about the bureaucracy that runs the machine?
So the bureaucracy, you'll find that in our book, Who's Raising Your Children, we have a whole chapter on Niti Aayog. That's the machinery that runs the country. Niti
Right.
Aayog has brought in a whole lot of woke people to get into the NCRT, to get into the Indian education system. You are fighting against the Hindu phobia in Ivy Leagues in this country, like anti-Semitism. There's Ivy Leagues. But at the same time, and the Niti Aayog has created new policies and new laws that invite these people to come set up campuses in India. So now you don't even need to send children to Harvard and Columbia and so on in USA to get them educated and turned into woke and brought back to India. You can get that woke education in India itself. So what a foolish thing to do. You see, on the other hand, you'll find that Chinese, when they send students to United States, is STEM only. They only want STEM. They don't send them to learn human rights. They don't send them to learn about anthropology and his Chinese history. They're not interested because they feel that we the Chinese know more about it than you the Americans know about our history, and we don't want you to talk about our human rights and all that because you really don't understand us. But we just want your technology. So they're very targeted. Most Chinese students and most of their exchange programs with the American education system have to do with STEM, whereas we are very fond of bringing them in for liberal arts and all kind of these sort of things. And that's a problem. My suggestion is that Indians should only fund and collaborate with Western universities on STEM and nothing else.
That was wonderful. And with the one last question that I wanted to ask is, are we generally apathetic to ourselves? Like, this is something which bothers me, that whole lot of us, and I say us, are apathetic towards each other's, needs. Rajiv Malhotra is like this. Oh, he's done so much like this. Oh, he's selfish and all. I said, अरे उसको करने दो ना भाई. I have always told people that if you agree with person X and his ambitions and missions, support. If you don't agree, leave him alone. And
So
this
I
is
will tell
practical.
you, I
Yeah.
will tell you, I will tell you why I'm the most selfish person. I'm the most selfish person because I had a business making a few $1 million a year personally in the 1990s, and I gave that up. I gave that up in order to do something more important for myself. And I'm selfish because I gained more than I gave up. I gained more as a human being. I gained more spiritually. I gained more, evolved my consciousness. And so, because I'm able to do that for the past 30 years, I've enjoyed doing that. I've benefited from doing that in my own life, in my own karma, and in my own swadharma. And therefore, I'm very selfish because I've achieved this. So their idea of selfish is different from my idea of selfish. I want people to be selfish, but selfish in terms of self-actualization, self-realization. That is being selfish. Okay, that's the kind of selfish that I would say. As far as my cause is concerned, the point is that whatever I am doing with my own money, with my own reputation, with my own time, with my own health, it's not stopping other people from doing what they can do. So they should go out and do whatever they can. So the idea that I don't take their advice and I don't necessarily go and say, okay, I get 100 emails a day telling me what to do. Give some advice, aapko ye karo, wo karo, all kind of stuff. And I always ask them, have you done this? Can give me evidence that you have actually done it yourself before you tell me what to do. It's like telling Tendulkar ke aise sixer mara chahiye, and the guy has never held a bat in his life and never faced a single ball. So most of the people who are giving all this advice, it's just a waste of time. So I have no qualms about saying, please go ahead, do what you want. Let me do what I want, and my results is all I care about. And we have plenty of results to share on April 19. And those people who won't be there, we'll be making documentaries. We'll be producing a whole lot of stuff, publishing new material about our journey. My main question for the last year to my team was, what's the impact? Give me the impacts we produced. Okay, so we were able to stop Columbia University from hijacking the Shingeri Mutt and setting up these Adi Shankara chairs. That's impact. We were very responsible in this new FCRA laws, because the book Breaking India exposed these foreign funded NGOs, and we had many hearings in Delhi. Madhu Kishwar organized, and as a result of that, they made these laws. That is impact. So if you look at actual impact we've had, it's about 30, 40 different major areas of impact we're going to showcase on the 19th of April.
That's wonderful. And one final thing, your short answer on that, because we are all immigrants to this country. We all came here for one reason or the other. In my case, it was promoting India's liberalization program. So the point of the matter remains is very simple. Current breed of H1B category, there are so many Indians here, they are not going to get the green card unless something revolutionary happens in the ICE or in the USCIS. What is your advice to them? Go back, start your own thing, or go ahead and struggle here? Because they will say, oh, it is easy for you to tell us to go back while you are sitting here and enjoying yourselves. The point is not that. Point is what you said earlier on. This is the moment. Every disaster offers an opportunity. Whether you are able to grab it for the next stage or not is up to you. Your thoughts on that?
So I would say, of course, each person should make their own decision. I can't make it for them. And it depends on their strengths and weaknesses. Those who are creative, who are at the high end of creativity scale and have enough entrepreneurship, which is a kind of mentality, a psychological strength you need, should go back and do a startup, because India needs that, and India is thriving on these startups. Those who are sort of followers, they need a regular job, and they don't have the enterprising nature, and they may not be at the cutting edge of the scale of brilliance. They're not that high up in terms of their competence. I mean, they're not going to be able to do a startup and do well. I mean, they just need the best salary job wherever they can get, and that's life. But I will also say that an impact of AI, which I predicted 7, 8 years ago when I started writing my book, and no one wanted to believe it, but it's becoming very evident now. It will kill a lot of programming jobs. It will kill call center jobs. It will kill data sciences jobs. Data sciences is they're just basically labeling objects, physical objects and mental objects for AI training. But that's a one-time thing. Once you've taught the AI that this is a cup, and another one is also a cup, another one is also a cup, and these are the properties that you recognize a cup from a phone. And therefore the visual system, the shape recognition system is able to recognize what is what. Once you've trained it and it's become better and better, then you don't need a human being to keep supplying the labor to do this labeling, that this particular kind of labeling. So labeling is a one-time thing. And it's a self-defeating, you're digging your own grave in a sense. The better job you do, the less you are needed. So the massive amount of Indian workforce and Indian population is going to face unemployment. A massive amount of Indian, they are not qualified at the level of international standards to produce value on competition with other people. And the value they're providing is so basic and so rudimentary, it's getting automated, replaced by machines, systems. And you will see the unemployment rates going up in India. That's not a very good news.
This will be in India as well as for Indians H1B here.
Well,
Both
I
places.
think the low level H1B who are not highly qualified, you will find that I mean the people who are highly qualified who know AI and all that stuff, they are in demand. They you can't hire enough of them for hundreds of thousands of dollars. So on the one hand, there is a huge unprecedented demand for top-notch talent. If you are in that category and you have been able to train yourself, that's good. On the other hand, the very basic rudimentary kind of services, the Shudra is going to get automated.
I must tell you this.
But Vibhuti, within tech there is the Brahmin and there is the
That's
Shudra.
right.
The
That's
Brahmin
right.
is the brilliant guy who's going to figure things out, and he's got his own algorithms and he's part of all this and that. I mean, that is needed more and more, and they're going to make more money. So
That's right.
so in a sense, you'll have the digital Brahmins exploiting the digital Shudras. When you'll have this caste system problem again, but in a new in a new framework, which has nothing to do with Hinduism. I mean, this is an American creation and a Chinese creation.
Talking about the Shudra, digital Shudra or banking Shudra, I became a Shudra, in my profession, but I was hit by that element. When I was transitioning from American Express to staying here, suddenly, in a certain levels of banking profession, those jobs disappeared. You did not need those VPs anymore. They disappeared. So that's what is important to know. And one last thought: those those who know you, they may have read your book and whatever. Those who are watching you for the first time, which of the books that you have written, and so many are here, which one would you say start from here?
So I would say if you're a technocrat, read Artificial Intelligence and the Future of Power. It will not teach you how to write AI code, but it will teach you the philosophy and the social political dimensions of AI that like we're talking about.
Right.
If you are a philosophical person and you really want to understand what is Indian civilization all about and how is it distinct, I would like you to read Being Different. I think it's my favorite. It's the all-time classic. If you are interested in political foreign interventions in India, then I think Breaking India is a very good book. And then Snakes in the Ganga is a sequel to that, which is also a very good book.
Thank you, Rajiv ji. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed the conversation. I found many places where we connect in more ways than one. So delighted to have you today. And thank you. All the best for your event on April 19th. I'll be there.
We'll see you. We'll see you there.
Yes, I'll be there. I'll be there. And to the viewers, those who are in this tri-state area or wherever you are, come for this event. I mean, Rajiv ji had made me the MC of the last event that he did in the same place, and thousands of people came there. So I'm not surprised that 1,300 have subscribed. He will need another hall for that for sure. But before I end, I always make a call to you that if you want truth to survive and win, you got to stand up for it.
Yes.
Satyameva Jayate is our slogan, is the Sanatan slogan, it's a Hindu slogan. And if Satya has to triumph, you can't be sitting under a tree hoping the Satya to triumph. You got to fight, stand up, fight for it, and be counted. With these words, please like, subscribe, and support our channel. Give your feedback, and see you again. Thank you, Rajiv ji, for joining today.
Thank you. Namaste.